Welcome back to Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, presented by Zwift. Here with Benji. I'm heading down to Adelaide tomorrow morning, just madly packing, which you can see behind me for the Tour Down Under. So don't be afraid to say hello if you see me down there. Where are you, Benji? In the UK?
Yes, sir. I'm in the UK, not planning to go to races at the moment, but maybe in the future, maybe throughout the year, maybe together. I guess we'll see.
Isn't there a cyclocross national champs in the UK?
I have absolutely no clue,
I
mate.
mean, you don't even go to the
I've
Belgian ones. Like, why would you make an exception for the British ones, right?
mate, the only moment that I've been to Ronde van Vlaanderen while living in Flanders for my entire life was when it literally passed through my hometown because they had to change the starting spot. So, hey, that's how I deal with it.
Fair enough. Anyway, speaking of going through hometowns, we have the Vuelta route reaction announced yesterday. In the is in Catalonia, is in the Musica Catalana, the Palau de la Música Catalana in Barcelona. It is starting in Barcelona and then going up to Andorra on stage 3, and it heads to, I don't know. They don't normally go to Catalonia as much compared to like Murcia or the south region, like Malaga gets nothing this time around. I think they did last year, and so it's quite a classic Vuelta route, but also with French Pyrenees mixed in with, frankly, Benji, I would say both of these mountain stages in the French Pyrenees are harder than any of the Tour de France mountain stages, even though one is shorter. I haven't looked at the low stage recently, but the one with the on stage 14 is super hard with that like 10k 9% climb halfway through the stage.
Yeah, I think so as well. Now, I also think that stage 13, like, we're going into these stages now without having explained the stages. So maybe it's a better idea to start off with the stage itself because I agree. The French stage are really doing something here, the French Pyrenees stage, and are really carrying that second week. But there's also stuff in the first week and so forth. So how about we start there? How about we start at the start, at the beginning? We spoke about Barcelona. It's a team time trial that we start off with 14.6 kilometers from Barcelona to Barcelona. And yeah, it's relatively flat. I don't know about the technicalities yet, but a team time trial, the instant thought I have is that Jumbo Visma will take time on the competitors. Is that a clear distinction there?
I mean, it depends who Ineos send. I think I see Ineos as the big threat to that. Like, they have a hater and others, and maybe Roglic doesn't go, maybe Dennis doesn't
Hmm.
go, Affini doesn't go, and Wout won't go probably. So who knows? Maybe Ineos push them. I see that as a possibility. I mean, I'm happy. We're hopefully all going to go to the Barcelona start, so you'll get to see every team. And there was, I don't know, a TTT, a city TTT, 14Ks. All this, yeah, you're right. All this means is that maybe Robert Gersink gets to keep, wear a jersey again, like Jumbo Visma shared around last year between Turnus and Gersink and co. But yeah, stage 2 is the first road stage from Mataró to Barcelona. It's kind of a climbing. It's just a puncher stage, really. Like, it's not that difficult. It's shallow climbs before, about 4%, 5% gradient at the most. They're far from the finish, and then it comes back into Barcelona from Mataró and does a lap of the Montjuic climb, which you'll know from the final stage of Catalunya, where it's quite a punchy climb. It's steep at the end. It's the stage I think Baggioli won or Volta did well on last year, and Ayuso as
Yeah.
well was quite fast on it. It's kind of like it promises to do something like the Pyrenees stage 8, but it never really does, in my opinion. Although I think people have lost GC before, but this to me is clearly a puncher's finish. Now, whether Matthews type riders or it's Roglic, this is really Benji. Roglic should be fourth favourite.
Yeah.
Matthews or someone will be first favourite, and
Court,
Roglic wins this stage.
I think that's definitely a possibility. Magnus Cort Nielsen is another rider I think of.
Break?
It's also kind of like Break, I don't think so because it's still the second stage.
And
I think
first
that still
road.
matters. Agree. Still first road race as well. I do think that the start of the stage with a slight uphill climb at the start, it's I think 6 kilometers of climbing at the start at 4.5%, which does mean that we'll have a bit of a breakaway fight directly at the start after the neutral zone. So we might have an interesting breakaway fight to get in the breakaway for those first KOM points. But towards the end of the stage, I do expect the peloton to be able to take it here. It also depends, like, is Jumbo going to control a stage like this if they're already in the lead in stage one? Those kind of thoughts we can't really look into yet because we don't know which riders are going and so forth. But you said it. The climby sprinty boys is also what I'm looking at because Montjuic in Barcelona hasn't been the most crazy climb. It's not like La Redoute where you can destroy everybody. That is
Nah, it's not
a
so long.
Exactly. It's also slightly uphill the finish line, so I'd indeed write down a Matthews or Roglic and so forth. If Laporte wasn't on Jumbo and would go to this race, then if he was still at Cofidis, then I'd write him down to compete on this, like that Paris stage he did against Roglic. Is it too hard for a Philipsen?
I think so. I really think so. The climbs are back to back. There's not much recovery period. He'll drift back on that Montjuic climb, and so he'll be out of position coming into the finish. I really, unless something changes a lot, I think that's tough.
Yeah.
Pedersen is one who Pedersen
Ooh.
really could go for this stage too. But anyway, that's the sort of stage it is. It's a mixture stage. It should be a group sprint finish. No GC gaps on that stage. The next one is 160 Ks from Suria, finishing at Arensal, which is in Andorra in the La Massana commune. I don't think they've used the Arensal finish up to. I think they'll go past the ski resort. I don't think they've used it before in the Vuelta. I'm not sure entirely. It's actually not that hard a stage. If you coming from the south side from Spain into Andorra, it's like a long false flat highway drag up, which they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're going to go up to Canillo, do the easy side of Col Loredino, which is really the main climb part, 6.5K, 6.5%, although there is climbing before then. It's like a step climb, but there will be no gaps on Col Loredino. It's not hard enough.
Yeah.
And they'll descend down. All the riders will have done that descent hundreds of times, probably half the peloton. It's a very popular training climb going from the Encamp commune across to Ordino. Then they'll descend past my house and turn right in La Massana and go up to Arensal, which is 7Ks, 8.2%. And to me, this is a sort of Roglic sprint, a Pogacar sprint in the last
Is it?
like 200 meters.
Could it also just be a breakaway stage like the Tarame stage we had 2 years ago in the Vuelta and so forth? Because I feel like these kind of stage in week one, who the hell is going to control this? And it depends on the
Jumbo never
control,
want
eh?
the jersey, right? In
Exactly.
Vuelta.
They want to give it away as soon as possible. The red
Yeah.
jersey is lava, according to them.
Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna wing it with saying break, but it's impossible to know so far out. It's gonna be dependent on what the situation in GC is that day and what the formation of the breakaway as well does throughout the stage. So for closer inspection on predictions, we can do that the week itself. I agree,
I'll give
not the
one
biggest
now.
deal GC wise. Is someone gonna lose GC here?
Enrique Mas will win this stage,
Oh
but
la.
not take the red jersey because they've done too badly in the TTT. I think Mas will be on. Or actually, Ayuso should win this stage.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. I don't know. It's 7Ks, 8%. Of course, you're right. Someone could lose. It's only up to 1,900 meters. Someone could lose a little bit, like 25, 30 seconds. I mean, we said this about Pico Hano. Didn't expect big gaps.
Yeah.
10K, 6.5%, and then and that it had Brenner's before.
But
So who
that was
knows?
the weather, eh? Partially.
15 degrees is pretty good conditions. Everyone did high numbers.
Yeah, but people don't
No,
like rain. We'll use that explanation. Come on. When it
I
comes
don't
to
know.
this climb, like if there's one team that could control, you're right. Ayuso's team could control this stage and try and get it to a sprint to get bonus seconds to make sure that they gain time again after losing it on the time trial. That's how I see that. But that's the first mountain stage of this Vuelta a España already on day 3, but it's not gonna be the most decisive stage, I'd say.
No.
It might be the day where we see like the 7th favorite or 6th favorite have a bad day already because he's not in shape for the Vuelta. And then we're going to see who's actually in shape for the Vuelta, a tiny bit at least. Stage 4 then. Andorra la Vella, also Andorra, to Tarragona. So we're leaving your home. Unfortunately, we're going to wave you away. And we're going towards a sprint, but the typical
Sprint.
Vuelta/Giro sprint, where you've got 2 hills in there, where Trek's going to go to the front and hammer it for Pedersen, and then they will fail to drop one of the sprinters, but they'll drop Merlier, which is supposed to go to this Grand Tour if Jakobsen stays at the shape he is. So Merlier's going to be crying when he sees his parkour of the Vuelta. But yeah, this
Broe
is
survives it too.
Yeah, exactly. So sprinter, but slightly versatile, not crazy.
Sprint, but you really shouldn't be getting dropped. Maybe a Groenewegen and Jakobsen Merlier do, but you really shouldn't be. Like a Jonathan Milan, Caden Groves, Philipsen have absolutely zero problem with this stage. And then it's a little rolly in the finish in Tarragona, which is back down near the coast below Barcelona. Before we get to stage 5, I'll mention Zwift, not content, not resting on their laurels with just having the most affordably priced direct drive smart trainer on the market, now have a Strava challenge for the Zwift Hub called the Zwift Hub Challenge. Right, 25 kilometers. Not sure what that is in American or British units. 16, 15 to unlock $50, £50 or €50 off a Zwift Hub and have a chance of winning $1,500 worth of indoor cycling tech. This challenge runs from the 14th of January in about 3 days if we get this up, recording it on the Wednesday the 11th, and it runs to the end of January, the 29th of January. So you've got a couple of days till it starts, and it's just 25 Ks of riding. Go and check it out. We've got the link down below, and yeah, I think it's a really good challenge, and 25 Ks, it's a nice little achievable one too, and an opportunity to go get that Zwift Hub for even less. But stage 5, Benji, from Morella to Buriana, craning my neck. It's another climby sprinty boy stage. We're going south now towards the Valencia region, where there's we do a little. First, they start in Catalonia and then do the Andorra stages, and they move down. Then there's a whole heap of stages down in Valencia, and this is the start of those.
It's the same
again,
stage?
I see sprint. It's the same stage. It's a sprint. Even easier, I think.
I feel like
it's
if I
Ks.
put these stages, under each other, the 2 climbs in the last 50K are in the exact same spot. Sure, they're not as hard, but yeah, in general, this is an slightly easier sprint stage than the one before, and that's the gist of it, eh? So here, the pure sprinter should definitely get over 11K at 3.9% is the longest kilometer a day, but 3.9%. I was gonna say even I could get over that, but I won't. But yeah, sprinter should take this. Yeah. Stage 6 then, not a climby boy. And that is basically the kind of stage that we often have in the Vuelta, where you've got this undulating parkour throughout the stage that tackles up the Denivel meters, the what do you call that in English?
Elevation gain.
Elevation gain. So it tackles up the elevation gain throughout the stage, but it really comes down to the final ramp to decide the stage. And sure, Breakaway could have the advantage here by a peloton that might not control the stage, but in the end, if it comes down to the peloton, it's also a pretty significant vital ending here, because 10.9% at 10.9 kilometers at 8% Havalambre. We've had this climb in the Vuelta a few times before. This is a steep one towards the end, because the last 5K, above 10% average. And there's a kilometer in there that is 12.7%, a kilometer of 10.9, 10.2, 10.6. So I'd say that this is definitely the kind of territory where if it was 5 years ago, you'd put Dan Martin next to the GC favorites. But Roglic should do really well on parkour like this.
Yeah, Roglic, Ayuso, Valverde. I can't remember when, was this in the Master Lacoste Vuelta where Vala beat Roglic to finish? I think that was different. Anyway, I'm pretty sure the Breaks won this before. Was this the one with Madrazo and
yet
one of the Herradas? Yeah, Burgos last win.
Oh God, that was an awful stage. And then Madrazo got a PlayStation or something. Oh, the memories. Anyway,
this could be a Tarame again.
Definitely could be. It's also week 1, so the week 1 mountain stage are still the ones where GC might still be waiting on the on the tough stages that come afterwards. So breakaway is possible, GC is possible, but that depends on who is going to control the stage, and we can't predict that from a year out.
Well, because Jumbo won't. But if Ayuso's in red or wants a stage and is the leader, I would ride for him on this stage. Like, if he feels good too. I mean, I would ride for Ayuso on every stage, even the flat ones. But yeah,
even
like,
in
it
the
depends
individual
on the
time trial.
Well, in the TTT, yeah, how can they get him more time? Anyway, next stage is a pancake flat sprint, 186 Ks. To be honest, it really isn't, to me, the most exciting first week, I'll be frank. Like, another pancake flat sprint in Olivia in Valencia region. Not much more to say about that. What about stage 8, Benji? Is this any more interesting, or is it still just going to be a watts per kilo test on that final climb and maybe someone gets away?
I think it's still the watts per kilo test on the final climb, and somebody might get away, and somebody might get a bit of time there. A Roglic could really finish well on a stage like this, because once again, it's that steep climb, 3.4 kilometers, 12.4%, but it's not finishing at the top this time around. We've got a descent going into a small ramp into the finish line, nothing too crazy, that final stretch. But yeah, it tops about, I think, 4 kilometers from the finish line, that climb, but I'd say this is more likely to be breakaway, because the descent after that shoddy Ducati climb, because the GC riders might not be willing to risk going all out on that 4-kilometer descent, while the breakaway is just going to be fighting at the front. So controlling this one might be more dangerous for the GC rider. Does that make any sense?
It does. Like, when you think about when Arate was used on stage 1 in 2020, that was a harder run in, at least in my opinion. Like, yeah, it wasn't, not just in my opinion, it was objectively harder in the last 45 minutes before. But this climb is different. 3.8 Ks, 11.5%. It is much steeper than Arate, not as long. How long will they take? Need to check. This is longer than Monde, I think. I think this is longer. So this should be 14, 15 minutes. Very, very steep. I need to check then Les Prairies. I think was 15 minutes. So that had some pretty decent gaps in it. But as you say, like, Roglic only took a second because of that. Arate also had a little descent off it. And
But
so, yeah, it depends how technical it is.
The gradients here is what does it on the climb, because the last 500 meters, 17%. Then the last 500 meters before that, 14%. 500 meters before that, 17.2%. I think this is hard enough, even if the breakaway wins that. A good Roglic, a good Ayuso, they can gap other riders on this climb, 100%.
Nah, Enric Mas, this is it. This is his one. Like,
that was a tour, according to you, a month ago.
Well, he's fresh off a podium at the tour. I can't remember if I said he'd win or podium, but let's go with podium.
He'd win.
Okay, fresh off a tour win. Why not win the Vuelta? No, actually, he can't win the Vuelta, but he can win this stage. This one looks good for him. And Remco's not doing the Vuelta, I don't think. So, yeah, Mas, Rodriguez, Ayuso. Should be a nice little Spanish watts per kilo battle here, and probably add Roglic or Vingegaard or Pog in too. Stage 9. From Cartagena, we're leaving now. Valencia, going further south, Costa Blanca region, in Murcia. This is it's another sort of, yeah, it's just another, like, what, I don't even know what this is. This is a break stage. This is break, 100%, 180 Ks. There's one 12K, 5% climb in the first 60 Ks after some flat, in which a break will form with some decent climbers. It will then be not controlled. It will be given 12 minutes or something, and then Kenny Elissonde, Taramay will fight it out. Carlos Verona, please, for the love of God, let him in the break. Nah. Verona,
I believe,
from the break.
Okay. That's very possible if they allow him to be in the breakaway on stage. They should, right? Because, like,
I mean,
what can happen?
Oh, we should say what the climb is. It's 8.1 Ks, 5.4%, but there's like 3 descents in it. And so, yes, there is an 1,800 meter, 9.5% section, but are you going to pace all day to then pace a climb which has a descent in it? You're not. So it's break. Ooh, not bad.
Not bad, but he's probably going to get shoved in domestic duties. I would expect. So I don't see him being in the breakaway. But that type of rider could also do well here.
Yeah.
If Lafay goes here, I'd write him down, but he hasn't shown much in the second half of 2022.
Herrada. This is the Uran Herrada Pacher
Yeah.
style stage, right?
Yeah, but
What
who
do you
did I
make of
pick
his
again
first
that
week?
stage? Soler, right? I used.
Oh, yeah, Soler. Free Soler.
But
He could win this.
about
Fred
the first nine stages, I would rate the first 9 stages nothing too crazy, It's a gentle start. The team time trial will make gaps already. Then we might see other people attack in the first week already to make up the gaps that they have lost in that team time trial. But it's not really I don't see a stage where they can lose like 3 minutes, 2 minutes. So that's going to be
Nah.
waiting until the second and third week, which I think is probably a good thing. I like the gentle starts to Grand Tours, but maybe I would have liked one stage where I was like more hyped about. These are going to be fun stages. Like the stage with the steep finish and so forth, these are going to be fun stages. If the GC riders are willing to fight for some of them. Because if they all go to the breakaway, then it's going to be a pull first week. If they go to GC riders as well, then it should be fun. The sprint should be fun as well. I enjoy that some sprints are in the first week. And it's also not that there's 5 sprints in the first week. It's like 3 or 3.5.
3.5,
so
yeah.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine with this composition of the first 9 days. This Grand Tour is really what comes after, eh? That's the most important factor. And what comes after starts off with, well, first of all, what do you think about the first 9 days?
It's fine. Like, we should see the GC guys fighting against each other. I think we'll mostly should see in a normal Vuelta not big gaps, and we'll see uphill sprints four times maybe, which is exciting for the fans. So it's a little appetizer, and I'm not complaining. It comes past my house, but yeah, it's like it's not crazy. They head northeast, by the way. They bypass Madrid, head northeast to Valladolid for this TT, Benji. 25 Ks, 116 meters elevation, a little 600 meters, 6.5% climb. Is this enough TT for a Grand Tour? Like, the Tour has the same length with more climbing. This Vuelta almost has the same time in terms of TT. Is this just made for mass?
I wouldn't necessarily say so. I think Mas could definitely do well in this Grand Tour because the time trial kilometers are limited, but it's also not overly limited. It's still 24 kilometers, 25 kilometers of flat TT plus a team time trial in there. So Mas is going to lose minutes either way because of the team time trial plus the time trial. That being said, Mas's TT wasn't horrendous either. So let's keep that in mind as well. I would say that 25 kilometers is probably the minimum that I like in a Grand Tour. The Tour de France kind of ruins it by putting hills in it because that still makes it able for pure climbers to just lower the deficit that they'll take on those stages. And here you don't really have that. Here they will lose time, the pure climbers, compared to the time trialist GC riders. And I'm fine with 25 kilometers. It's not the end of the world. If it was like 15, I might have gotten my pitchfork out and started like walking towards Spain. I might arrive there in 9 months and then I can complain.
Are you saying you want to do the Santiago de Camino, the Santiago de Compostela, the pilgrimage, Benji? You can start from your house.
I technically could, but I don't think I'd survive.
We could do it, like film it and put it on YouTube. Like, it'd be the
Live stream
mission
it.
part 2. Like
Live
Robert De
stream the
Niro
entire
carrying
way.
the cross. Yeah, why not? People do it, actually. I was thinking of doing it. I don't know why. I was like, when the fuck would I be able to walk from Andorra to Santiago de Compostela for like 6 weeks? Well, when would I have the time to do that? In summer. So I obviously didn't do it. But yeah, if you want to,
Okay.
Benji, I support it. Stage 11. From Lerna to La Laguna Negra Vinuesa. It's another Unipuerto mountaintop finish, but it's not a Rampa Sin Humanas, really. It's kind of a soft climb. This, I think, is the climb Dan Martin beat Roglic on in 2020, if I'm correct. Yeah, like, hopefully it's GC guys who control it, and we see Ayuso and Rodriguez and everyone that we've already mentioned sprinting against each other, but it's really not a very complicated stage. There should be no big gaps.
Yeah, I'm a bit fearful that this is once again an opportunity for the breakaway because it's so flat and because there's no hill at the start to really make a complicated breakaway.
Court.
I think Court is definitely a rider that you can ride down for this. I agree. But it's also like, is it a bit too hard for Court? Court's not a shit
Well,
climber, eh? But
I think someone like a Court, Baggioli, and Simmons, by the way, all three people I think who have been in a Vuelta break together, and the one Court won in 2021, they're the sort of guys who can be really hard to bring back on the flat. But like Simmons, for example, he climbed Carpena pretty well. Court climbs really well. I need to check the gradients because it's a different profile, this one. But I don't think it's steep. So on 7%, I don't know. It all depends on the appetite of the GC guys as well. But it
yeah,
could be an attack from the base, like La Molina with O'Connor. I don't know.
meh. We'll see. We'll see what happens on that stage. Next stage, sprint stage. Nothing to say about it. 165k from Olvega to Zaragoza. And there's no real obstacles in this stage as well. So this is a pure sprint stage. And we'll see what happens, which sprinters go to this Grand Tour and which sprinters could actually do something here. And whether Merlier is still in the shape to sprint at this point in the race. Stage 13, that's the big one. I'll throw it to you for that stage because, damn.
So they're starting on Formigal, and then they're descending basically. They start at 1,600 meters and do 4.5 Ks, 5.5% out of neutral on the Puerto de Portalet. And then, well, I'm doing it in Spanish. It's actually French. But till we do it in Spanish. Then they do a long 28K descent into Lorraine. That's where Pog won the stage 9 in 2020, the Hirschi Roglic.
Yeah.
This is near the Col de Marie Blanc. Not doing that. Then they do it. There's no flat in this stage, just about. You can get some guys in the break on that initial opening burst, in my opinion. Then they do the Col d'Aubisque. Long climb, 45 minutes plus 16.6 Ks, 7% descent, 2 Ks, 5% straight after on the descent on the Col du Souloir, and then another descent, no flat yet in this stage. Then they do the Col de Spandel, this climb which I'd never really seen before, now in 2 Grand Tours in 2 years.
Yeah.
I think this is the side they did in TDF. 10.4 Ks, 8.1%, and then the technical descent that Pog crashed on, they're doing again down into the Ariège. And then there's a false flat drag. They're going to do the Tourmalet the opposite direction, 18.8 Ks at 7.5%, the opposite direction that they do it in the Tour this year. This, to me, like if you put your Vingegaard hat on, this is the stage where Vingegaard, in my opinion, would be more likely to have a huge advantage compared to any of the stages in the Tour, maybe even more than Col de la Loze.
I think so as well. Yes, it's a short stage. It's 135 kilometers, but Spondel, we spoke about it so much on the Otakam stage in the Tour de France. It's such a difficult climb. It's a really painful one as well, just before the fact that you've got a Tourmalet afterwards. So the only thing that I'm not sure about is like the small false flat between Spondel and Tourmalet, but hey, we got to get from climb to climb somehow. We can't just magically teleport to the bottom of the next climb. So that's understandable. I do want to say, is the Puerto de Portalet, or the Portalet in general, the first 4.5, 5.5% climb before they dive towards the Col d'Aubisque, is that hard enough to not be able to control for other teams? Because you're saying that's where you can get satellite riders in the breakaway. I feel like it might just be too easy to control those 4.5 kilometers, and therefore the break might only properly form on the Col d'Aubisque itself. That's how I see this stage kind of playing out here, because if you're a GC leader, if you're a GC rider that's in the lead, you want to make sure that they can send satellite riders in the breakaway as late as possible. And if you see this stage, then I would argue that I would just make sure I control the Portalet and try and then hold the gap as well on Col d'Aubisque and so forth, and try and control it there as well. So I don't expect the big break to go just on the Portalet already. I expect it to go on the Bisque. This is definitely a big stage. This is where stuff can happen. I don't necessarily see people go like crazy on the Spondel, because I fear that we might not have like the tension between Vingegaard and Pogacar that we had in the Tour de France 2022. Like, we've lived a luxurious life when it comes to the Tour de France in 2022. We can't expect every Grand Tour stage to be like this. And that's where I fear that they will wait until the Tourmalet to actually do the action, which is not the end of the world. Spondel will still hurt all the riders. The climb before Obisque will still hurt all the riders. So, do you agree with that, or do you think they will actually attack on the Spondel?
Wow, it really depends on the race situation. If someone can get a satellite rider, because as you say, if you attack, it's like when Pogacar attacked on or paced Jonas on Galibier without a
Hmm.
satellite rider. It's like you just you get to the crest and you're like, well, I'm not going to
Yeah,
ride the 20Ks a flat on my own. So
yeah.
unless you got minutes, so yep, you need a satellite rider. Enric Mas, of course, could drop everybody and have Carlos Verona, Erviti, and Nelson Oliveira waiting ahead. That'd be beautiful.
Aramburu,
And Arambaru. To be honest,
descender for the Spondel.
I agree with you. I wish the start was a little bit longer uphill, and then we could see
Yeah.
like a Basque Country stage 8, the last stage, just carnage of people trying to get in the breakaway. I mean, it does go up to 2,000 straight away, but yeah, I think we'll see the break formation, as you say, like break will go, and then it'll be slow paced on Obisque, and then Louis Menkes will attack to get in the break on Obisque to get to then take GC time back. I think that sort of thing will happen. It's a hard as fuck stage though. Rarely do you see 3 super hard climbs in one stage less than 150 k's of length. Like it's a
Yeah.
hard stage. Next one, 161 k's. Again in France, goes back down into Spain and then doubles back towards the border, although it still finishes in Spain, this one. Flat start. First 50 k's are flat, and then they do the Col Orsea, 11.6 k's, 8.3% descent, and then the Puerto de la Rao, 15 k's, 7.8%, but really it's actually 10.3 k's, 9.1%. That's hard before them. That's really hard. Then a descent, then a rolling like 3.2 k's, 5.8%, flat, and then finishing on 9.4 k, 6.3% at La Rao Belagua, rather. No real high altitude, but it's hard again. Will anyone go on that second last climb?
I think it depends on the race situation, but I would say that we spoke about the Tourmalet stage a bit earlier. That is the on paper queen stage that you see it, you're like, wow, the Tourmalet stage, Spondel, Obisque, wow, what a crazy stage. The stage 14 could be the hidden devil behind the scenes, as in, there is real potential to have satellite riders up the road on this stage. I don't like that there's no little climb at the start to make the break formation a bit crazier, but there's potential here. And the factor that that second last climb is so bloody difficult, 10.3 kilometer, 9.3%, this is harder than the Spondel, right?
Yeah, this is borderline Mortarolo hard. Like,
Yep.
it's close, getting close to that. It's super hard. And then it's a little. The reason I really think it's satellite, first of all, remember Covadonga and the climb before then, Bernal went there. Like, if there's someone
Yeah.
like Bernal behind, they will go on this climb. And with that flat beforehand, you can get a Verona, a Wout van Aert type. You probably won't be doing the Vuelta, but a Verona, Castroviejo. They can get in the break. They can get a nice buffer because the break could go in the first 10Ks, and then there's an hour of Peloton doing fuck all, and they give it 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
then I think where satellite riders really help, and we saw this in stage 20 of Vuelta in 2021 when Haig took the podium, is in undulating shallow terrain afterwards. When you have an engine like it was Padun there and a Maida for
Yeah.
Haig, that 3.2k, 6% climb, if you're on your own and you've been dropped or behind the split and they have a satellite rider ahead, you lose so much energy there. And then you just get killed on that final climb. So hopefully there's a long ranger.
Yeah.
Hopefully. And people should be softened up by the Col Orsea.
Yeah. And the climb and the stage before, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like if the stage before is a war, I mean, we didn't see that with Granon and Alpe d'Huez, but that was because Vingegaard shut it down. But yeah, I'm hopeful for this stage. I really think it could be quite good.
I agree with that. I think this is like I said, the hidden devil that might not be super obvious when you see the parkour. You might think, oh, that looks like the Konya stage and the Giro where you've got the climb at the end that kind of flattens out towards the end, but it's a second last climb people need to worry about. It's so bloody steep that shit can happen on this stage. Riders can get away, and riders can make decisive moves on this stage if they plan their tactics correctly from the start, and if those tactics actually work out. But I think that's the end of week 2, right? What do you think of week 2?
No, we got stage 15.
Oh, is that also in week 2?
Let's say it is. It finished from Pamplona to Lecanberry, 156.5 Ks. It is a breakaway stage for Alberto Bettiol or Magnus Cort. It's like an undulating, although I don't have the gradients, it's like undulating medium mountain. Maybe Caden Groves could get around this if Albertson went all in, but that's a
Too hard for
ask.
Pedersen?
No, it's not too hard. I don't think. Again, if someone comes in and says actually these are all 8% climbs, then
yeah,
they can get fucked. And of course, then Pedersen can't get around it. But I'm looking at the gradients, I reckon like 5% sort of region. Pedersen, Matthews, Phillipson, or Groves, those teams need to team up together.
Agreed. I do want to say I'm looking at like the official Vuelta parkour of this stage, and I feel like the second last and the last climb seem to be the same climb, the Puerto de Zuararate. So it's not Arate, it's a Zuararate climb because they want to make it difficult. But I feel like the last climb is less steep than the second last climb. So they're probably doing a different road up the climb is what I'm guessing, unless the profile is just dog shit, which is also possible because it's not showing the percentages on the bloody profile. So I'm already getting tired of these Vuelta profiles. Jesus Christ, who makes these? Anyway, my rant is over. I agree. It's likely going to be a breakaway stage. And the reason that I think so is that while I think Pedersen could get over these, depending on the gradients, I think his team might not be able to control it.
Yeah, because they send him with these races with one rouleur. He's their best rider, and they're like, all right, so Dauphiné, Vuelta, what we got to do is control medium mountain stages for you in the sprint, right? There'll be strong rouleurs in the break.
Brustenga.
We're going to give you, well, Brustenga gets dropped at the base. We're going to give you, and listen, I like these riders, but we're going to give you Kenny, Galopin, and Juanpe. Well, yeah, he's useful too. But the three climbers, Ambrambilla before he went to the new Q365, and those three climbers weigh a combined 100 kilos. And so when they are pulling on 2%, you don't gain anything. And Alex Kirsch is just getting fucking worked. Like he's going to pull back the brake and then do the lead out. So yeah, I would, if I was Magnus Cort, I would get in the break on this stage. But yeah, that's week 2. I think it's a monster. I think it sets up the third week nicely.
Yeah, I think there's going to be GC riders on notable deficits already because of stage 13 and 14. Time trial and team time trial will still have their consequences for some riders that might not have taken time back enough on those stages. So week 3 will still very much be decisive, but is week 3 hard enough to put a crowning thing on the Vuelta we have so far? Because we had the week 1, which was a slow entry into the Grand Tour with some opportunities to show themselves, some opportunities to have a bad day perhaps, but nothing too decisive. Stage 2 is the one with decisive climbing stages, stage 13, 14, and then we enter stage 3, which could be deadly for some riders. Starts off with stage 16, Lencres Playa to Baez, which is basically completely flat until the last 5 kilometers, which then is an uphill section to the line. I don't know the gradients of that uphill section. I'm going to go...
It's around Passion Humanas, I think.
Oh, is it? Well,
if
it's Rampas and Humanas, then I have no clue who's going to win the stage. A break could be ahead. A break could not be ahead. Like, who cares who wins this stage?
Valverde wins.
He's going to return just for the stage.
Don't you reckon Javier Gillen would allow it?
Of course he would. Even Movistar would do it.
It would be the most Tim Pot thing. He's allowed to run the third week of the Vuelta. He just does the Rampas.
As a reserve for like an injured rider.
I fully support it. Yeah, he replaces Jorge. Jorge's gear is all right. Yeah, it's just an uphill test. We've seen this stage 4 times already, I swear to God. Stage 17, 122 Ks, needs no introduction. Alto del Cordal after a little warm-up on the Cola Diella, 5.7 Ks, 8.5% descent into the Angleroo, up to 1,554 meters. one of the nastiest rampas inhumanas climbs in cycling. The final ramp is 6.5 Ks, averaging 13.3% with steeper pinches. Big Hugh John Carthy won here before with a top 10 climbing time ever on the climb in 2020, and there'll be big gaps. Like there always will be. And if it's been bunch, sprint, group sprint, bonus second, if you crack here, like Roglic, did he crack here in 2020?
He cracked a bit. He was staying with Kuzden after both Vlasov, Carthy, and so forth, if I recall, dropped him. Carthy ended up winning that stage. Vlasov didn't come too far after. Jaguar, indeed. Jaguar also attacked away, got some time on your boy Rogla. So I would say that this stage is going to be decisive, but it all comes down to the final climb. We know that. Like, the only thing that can happen on this stage is the second last climb. We still see Froome starting to pace like he did 2-3 years ago. But
Poor Froome.
Yeah. This is final climb territory. Angleru is legendary for that. So we're gonna see gaps on this climb, but it's all gonna come down to the final climb. So I'm more hyped by stages that aren't just the final climb, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Hindley should target this. After what he did on Fadaya, it's really steep. Week 3, Hindley should really go for this sort of stage. I mean, yeah, but he can win every stage. So, but yeah, like this will be huge for GC. Like there is no hiding on the Angleru. It's nasty.
Yeah.
The next stage, 180K, stage 18. It is the last proper mountain stage, I would say. Finishing in La Cruz de Linares. Starts in Ola de Allende. It is, I wouldn't say medium mountain. 10K is 8.5% in the middle of the stage is a bit tougher than medium mountain. I really don't see. It's then a long descent after, and then a 3.5K, 9.4% climb. I don't really see anything happening until maybe the second last climb, which is 8.3 Ks, 8.5%, has a 4.8K, 10.3% section in it. Just to remind you, that is as steep as Col de Marie Blanc, where there was separation in the Tour in a stage that wasn't as hard as this, and they do a descent and then they do the same climb again after about a 5K flat section, and they finish on top of La Cruz de Linares. I think this is pretty hard, and you can go on the second last.
Fully agree. I feel like the fact that the start of the climb, the first 4K, is the steep part means that it is somewhat of a launching pad. Because on those first 4 kilometers, people will get their legs completely destroyed. And in the last 4 kilometers, you can try and get away. Or even on the steep section, you might still be able to attack and try and gain time already before hammering it down on the flattening out towards I'm saying flattening out, but it's still 7.8%, 7.7%, and so forth. So I think this is hard enough to go. Somehow, this climb reminds me of the stage where Roglic went far away and Bernal followed. Does that feel like a similar climb, or am I making that up?
Coverdong was a bit longer, but yeah, like someone will probably who's behind on GC launch on that second last climb. It reminds me a little bit maybe of Aura's tactics on the Tirreno stage. They could try open it up. Maybe even on that 9.4% climb, they could just go super hard out of nowhere, 50 Ks from the finish.
Tirreno or Turin stage?
Yeah, sorry, the Turin stage in the Giro. Stage 14 where Kelder pulled hard and Yates won the stage. So I think it could be quite open, but it also might not be. It depends on the tactics, but I think it's fine. I mean, because of stage 20, stage 19 is a flat sprint, fine, whatever, transition stage. Because stage 20 is different to the stage 20 we've seen in recent years in the Vuelta, where it had longer, harder climbs. This has like 10 Cat 3 climbs. Maybe teams will have to throw all their eggs into the basket of stage 18.
Potentially. It kind of depends on stage 20. We'll go over it now because we've said, it's not really the ordinary. But let's go over it for a second. It's 208 kilometers, so it's above 200 kilometers, 208. So that's a long stage. But what's in it? Plenty of climbs. 10 categorized climbs, if my math is correctly. 6 plus 2 plus 2 is 10. Yes, I am very intelligent. And it starts off with an uphill climb already, which is 10.8 kilometers at 3.4%. Not the craziest, but this is a climb that might boost breakaway opportunities and might get a 100% the breakaway for Arkea, stuff like that. Now, the rest of the stage is just up and down and up and down and up and down. And I would say that halfway the stage is where I see the switch happening from the breakaway being the most important part to the GC might start doing something. Because this is on paper, when you see it, the profile, a potential raid stage, a potential ambush stage where people might try and launch, like in the Turin stage, a Bora attack where they go crazy. But are the gradients hard enough? In the last half of the race, so the last 100 kilometers, we start off with, first of all, the La Escondida climb, 9 kilometers at 4.1%. That's not very hard. So I'm not really saying that you can go on there and attack away that easily. That's one where you either pay something and hope that a climb later could be a launching pad for your riders. Then directly after that, we go down 3 kilometer roughly descent. We've got a small climb of like 2.3 kilometers at 5%, descend of a kilometer once again, and then we start the next proper climb, Alto de Santa Maria de la Alameda. And this is 4.8 kilometers at 5.6%. So again, not very steep, but the last kilometer roughly is 6.1%. It goes a bit steeper. And then the next portion is a descent once again, 2 kilometers ascending, and goes straight into the next part of the climb, which is the Alto de Robledondo, which is 3.8 kilometers at roughly 6.3%. Now, let's talk about this section first. There's three climbs that follow afterwards, but this is the portion from 100k to the finish to 60k to 40k to the finish even. Is this hard enough to launch a rider on, you think?
Not normally, no. There needs to be some real team coordination, some rider being a bit weaker. Maybe they've had a crash 3 days before. There needs to be... I'd have to look, but the climbs are too steady. Like, if they were fake news climbs, then there's a chance. If there's a 2K 9%, 9.5% part of them, but there's not. They're too steady, and so the draft is just too important. They're all like 10 minutes or less, draft heavy. I really don't see it. I think it's too. I think the stage is too shallow for. If a guy's good enough to be leading by this point, unless he's sick or has just crashed, they really shouldn't be losing the Vuelta here. Same with third, frankly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't see it.
The thing is, the first half of the stage does warrant the opportunity to send satellite riders up the road, like easily, with the amount of climbing that's in there. We're talking about 4,000 altitude meters in this stage, but it's just that I don't see the obvious launching pad. There is the possibility that one of these climbs becomes a launching pad because of a descent, perhaps, because we don't know what the descents look like. I haven't gone down into Google Street View and looked into every descent yet, but I would say that if splits happen, it might be because there's a dangerous descent somewhere, or because there's something that happens that splits up the group. Are these climbs obvious launching pads? No, but one might turn out to be if we analyze it further throughout the year. Now, after that section, we're going into the last 40k. And then we've got like a small climb of 2.6 kilometers at like 40k from the finish line, 7%. So that's a bit steeper. So potentially stuff happens there. There's descent leading into it. I don't know. There's a possibility to do something there, but it's also not too long. And let's be honest about that. And then we move towards a climb that is 26k from the finish line, which is the Puerto de la Cruz Verde, which, I don't know. Should we call this a climb? Like the first like 7 kilometers is like 2% average. Then we've got a 6% kilometer, then 3.6%, 6.5%, 3.9%, 1.7%. So like this is the kind of climb where you already need to be up the road and where a satellite rider will 100% matter. So it's kind of like the stage has everything to have a raid stage except the launching pad, no?
Yeah, it's missing like that combination of like a 3K 10% climb followed by a 7K 8% climb, or even a frankly a 6K 6% climb doesn't exist from what I can see here. So that's the problem with it. Maybe someone magically can do something, but really Ayuso like should be winning this, or more likely, where's Aaron Broe? Shouldn't he win this? Is he going to do anything this year?
I don't know, but I also feel like the stage might be too hard for Ramburu. Even if like the gradings are not crazy, I think like GC is
It's like
definitely going to try
4,500
something.
Deneville.
Yeah, GC teams are going to do something. Like they're going to try on this stage.
I think we've been lucky the last couple of years, and rank cowardice is also a big possibility in cycling. And we might see some cowardice. Hopefully not, but protecting positions, etc. Hopefully I'm wrong. But I think the Angleroo really will decide the winner. I don't see it changing too much.
We haven't mentioned the last climb in this stage, which is nothing too crazy. It's basically 10 kilometers from the finish line, Alto de San Lorenzo de El Escorial, which is 5.7k, 5.5%, a kilometer in there of 7.9%. So if the stage has not been decided yet by then, there's still an opportunity to attack for riders, but it's also not the craziest climb either. I think we might be surprised by a descent that is more crazy than we are anticipating right now. That might speed up the race more than we are expecting. But for now, I'm like, I want the stage to be the stage 20 of the Vuelta 2021, the one where Lopez jumps in the car, that kind of stage where stuff like that happens. I want this to be the Turin stage of the Giro 2022, but I'm missing the launching pad at the moment. And if anybody knows if any of these climbs are underrated by us or one of the descents is underrated by us, then definitely drop it in the comment section or tweet it at us. Then we are aware of that for the future. But yeah, it's a cool stage if there was a launching pad.
It might rain. It's in the north of Spain after all.
Yeah.
So it could rain. Who knows? Could be a bit cooler. I doubt it. That it'll be cooler, but it can rain. Last stage of the sprint procession. The Madrid stage always feels like less of a procession than the Tour de France Champs-Élysées stage, but it is one nonetheless. 101 Ks. Yeah. Sprint. It's actually a little uphill drag. Ackerman's won this, I think, in the past. It's not actually flat, the finish from memory, if it's the same one. So, yeah, just something to bear in mind. Philipsen is obviously brilliant for something like this.
Milano beats his lead out.
Oh, yeah, Milano. See, he got extended at UAE? Can't remember.
I think yes.
I don't UAE could win a fair few stages in this race. You know, Covey in the break, if he does Giro Vuelta, Covey could be really good in some of these break in week 1 stages. Ayuso from the group, Milano in sprints. They could win 10 stages.
Almeida.
He's domestique now, isn't he?
I think we haven't decided on that yet. I think we should still put him as co-leader in with Ayuso until we see Ayuso really deliver.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Almeida can lead Ayuso out in the Vuelta, I'm afraid. He gets leadership in the Giro. Seems fair to me.
Well, are you sure about classics?
That? Well, maybe it's a free for all. But if he's good enough, he'll get to be leader. If Jay's better or if McNulty's better, then they're better. I think everyone will get their chance. I don't see why it would change greatly from how the Vuelta was played with Ayuso and Almeida last year in the Giro. But yeah, what do you think about the Vuelta route? I mean, I'll say I think it's fine. It's kind of a lot of things that I expect from the Vuelta route. Rampas in Humanas. I don't see like the Philippe Gilbert 220k windy stage. Maybe I'm missing it.
That was quite rare.
It can be windy in the Vuelta sometimes.
We should like put 700 fans by the side of the road, as in not fans as in public, but like fans as they're like wind pushing fans, and then we can have a Guadalajara stage again.
I'm hoping. Do you think Vingegaard should do this?
It depends on whether he sucks in the Tour or not.
I say wins goal comes second, doesn't crash, completes the Tour. Like
if he wins the Tour, no.
Level.
Winning the Tour, he does Lombardia. Losing the Tour, he does a Vuelta.
Why do Lombardia though?
Because he's celebrating after the Tour.
Pog is fucking unstoppable in Lombardia. How do you beat Pogačar in Lombardia? Someone let me know.
If you won the Tour, do you care?
Yeah, but then you still. Yeah, I know you. I know. I'm sure he's not losing sleep at training camp because he got slapped in Lombardia. But that doesn't mean you should keep going in the next year. I mean, Mast, of course, has to do it. Ayuso is doing it. I don't actually think it suits Pog so much. I also think he'd be pretty bored. I think it kind of suits Fingergaard, frankly. And Roglic, of course, will probably... Roglic has to do it, right? If he does Giro. Or would you hold him... Are Italian Classics and Vuelta compatible? We should mention this starts in after World Championships at the end of August, middle to the end of August. Is the Italian Classics compatible? This finishes in mid-September? Yeah, it should be. Roglic should be able to do both. So he should do the Vuelta too.
Yep. Remco will not. He's doing Lombardia on loan, so...
Okay. I mean, Remco's already won. Is there anyone else that could do it? There's a threat. Hindley, I already said, should probably do this after the tour. It really suits him. I really don't see him. I would rather he did the tour.
The parkour just isn't it, eh?
Yeah, I don't see this for him. Like he just doesn't have the what's quite just yet. The tour would be better experience on those sort of shallow climbs, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, it's a I don't actually really know what a classic Volta route looks like. I just see some steep ramps and Angleroo, and I'm like, looks pretty classic. They're hitting areas close to me that I'm familiar with, so I'm happy about that. And yeah, I think it'll be cool to be in a major European city to start in Barcelona. Will be awesome. Hopefully there'll be big crowds. It will be stinking hot. August in Barcelona is disgustingly hot. Hopefully it's not, but whether that affects, the first mountaintop finishes in Arinsal, it can be super hot in Andorra too in August. So that won't necessarily be a lot cooler. Yeah, but what do you give it out of 10, Benji? I'm going to give it a 7.
I'm going to go for a 7.5. The reason I'm not going towards 8 is because I'm not 100% certain about stage 20. It looks like it could do something, but I'm missing that launching pad.
I'm off it.
I would say Angleroo's pretty good. I'd say that even stage 18, the La Cruz de Linares stage, I like that. There's potential there if riders are willing to risk it on that stage. I like the
Shouldn't
stage
that
14
be
a lot.
Stage 20?
That would be good if it was stage 20. But
yeah.
I kind of like the experiment of the stage 20. I kind of want to see where this goes. I don't know.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Change it up. I didn't give it more because there's, a few too many stages where I think Angel Madrazo will be competing against,
Four Galician farmers.
Roger Adria. And there's only so much in August I can take of that. I'll be pretty... one's fine, but if I see 3 of those stages in a row, I start to get a little bit cranky. So that's the reason why I can't give it too much. Although those French Pyrenean stages are actually really serious stages. Yeah. So I'm keen to see how they work in the Vuelta and in that race context. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know down below what you think of the route. Who do you think will go? It's a long time away with a lot of different things to happen in the season. Most likely some other rider will completely come up. Sebastian Berwick, perhaps.
Michael Brenner.
Brenner, Berwick, all these names. Corbin Strong to be the punchy guy to win in the Montjuic Barcelona stage. Who knows? So many things could change. And that's the exciting part about the Vuelta. See all those young guys pop up. But I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to Zwift for supporting the show as always. And we'll see you in the next one. Ciao.